All right, I'm back. I've returned. It's been a few weeks to almost a month since I made a video. It's been a very difficult month. I actually got diagnosed with alopecia. If you're wondering like what that is or why I have this bald spot on my beard, that's what it is. I thought it would go away after a few weeks, but it's been like months since I've had it. And so I went to the doctor and they're like, yeah, alopecia, you'll be all right. It's just like tough mentally to deal with. So it just means my autoimmune system is attacking my hair follicles and making it fall out in weird places. Like you can see like one eyebrow is much thicker than the other one. This one's struggling a bit right here. So, it's been a tough time. I've been just like lacking confidence to make a video and stuff. And I know I can, do Let's Plays and make videos where I'm not on the camera, but, this is the moneymaker right here. So honestly, it's been tough, but I was in a very like depressed mood and it got me thinking, like, speaking of depression, why don't I rank the top 5 saddest video game endings of all time? And in this video, that's what I'm going to do. Let's get into it. All right, starting out with number 5. This is a tough list for me to make, and I know there's tons of games that I probably haven't played that are really tragic at the end as well. So if you guys have any that I leave out, definitely let me know in the comments. But let's start with number 5. The 5th most tragic game that I've ever played, The Last of Us. This is the newest edition, but it's all the same. Back on the PS3, it's the first time I played The Last of Us. And my goodness, was this an emotional roller coaster at the end. Now, for all these games, I'm getting into major spoilers. I'm going to go deep on the endings and not hold back. So if you never played these games and you don't want them spoiled, this might not be the video for you. But without further ado, I'm just going to get right into the nitty gritty here. So you play as this man, Joel, who loses his daughter at the beginning of the game and she dies. And it's because of the zombie invasion that's going on, which is like the point of this whole game and the story, The Last of Us. And, Ellie shows up, right? And his assignment is to escort this other girl who's around the same age as his daughter, and he escorts her like all the way across the country to try and find a way to make a cure for the zombie apocalypse, because the zombies are like infested with fungus in their heads, right? So this girl Ellie is the only one immune to the fungal virus, so even if she gets bit and all that, she can't turn into a zombie. So scientists and doctors are trying to be like, let's harvest her abilities in her blood and try to make a vaccine out of it and cure the whole world, right? So fast forward to the end of the game, you're playing as Joel and you don't get a choice in this, but Ellie's like taken from you and she's put on this hospital bed, and they say to Joel like she's not gonna live through this process. They're gonna take the vaccine and make it, and she's gonna die, and he's just not having it. So you go on an absolute rampage through the hospital and you kill all these doctors and people who are trying to do good, in the world, but they just like happen to be sacrificing a 14-year-old girl to do it. But that's what makes you like compelled to just like kill all these people as Joel and feel kind of good about it, but there's probably the other half of people who are like, this is horrifying. Like, I don't know if this is worth it. All of humanity, for this one person, this one child, right? So I remember playing the game and I was all for Joel. I was like, yes, there's no way they're gonna, kill this girl on my watch. So you just rampage through the hospital, you kill everyone, you get to the doctor's room, and he's like, no, 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 and then you just kill him too, and then you pick Ellie up and take her to the car, and drive away, and no one gets a vaccine, and Ellie wakes up after, the anesthesia, and she's like, what happened? And Joel essentially lies to her and is like, sorry, they couldn't make a vaccine, it didn't work out for you, and Ellie was like very sad about that, but she didn't know Joel was lying, but she was still sad that she couldn't make a vaccine for everyone. So that's even more killer, as Joel is like, Ellie's disappointed in this decision that she doesn't know that you just made for her, right? So Joel lies and says, nah, it didn't work out. Let's go. And they're back to square one. And I think that is really a dark and tragic ending, but it is a very interesting ending because it has this moral question to everyone, the players. Like, what would you do in the situation? Would you let this girl die who's like your second daughter to die, to save humanity? I don't know about that, So Last of Us Part 1, that is a tragic ending indeed. All right, coming in at number 4, this is another one that's like a little controversial, or you really gotta read between the lines to see the sadness here. And back in one of my first videos that I made on this channel, it was about The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time versus Breath of the Wild and all that. But I referenced this other YouTuber, Good Blood Games, and he made a whole video about how The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time is one of the saddest endings that you never realized from a Zelda game. So what he goes on to explain in this video is, if you know the story of Ocarina of Time, you play as young Link and he meets Zelda and they conspire to like defeat Ganondorf, but they're too young. So you go through these dungeons and you get the Ocarina of Time, and then all this bad stuff happens. I won't spoil the whole game, just the ending. But you grow up 7 years later and you're a 17-year-old, like almost an adult, and that's when like the big part of the game takes place. And at the end you finally smite Ganon, the evil beast, and the game is over, and it should be a very happy ending, right? But when you think about it, so you start with this companion, Navi. Everyone knows Navi, very annoying, but I love Navi. Navi's the best. You can't tell me Navi sucks. So you're going around with Navi and your horse Epona like the whole game, and at the end of the game, Zelda goes to you and says, you should have your childhood back. You shouldn't have had to wait 7 years to grow as an adult without anything going on. Like Link was like frozen in the sacred realm at the time. So first of all, Navi leaves. Navi's like, the deed is done, and Navi like floats away up to the roof of the sacred realm. Maybe he can just like fly out the window or something. I don't know how he got out because they were indoors. But your most faithful companion leaves, and then Zelda goes to you, here, let's put the Master Sword back in the pedestal, which will rewind time 7 years, and the game ends with young Link not having met anybody that he just met over the last 7 years. Zelda doesn't know him anymore, Epona doesn't know him anymore, and Navi is gone, right? So, like, why did they do that? I get it, he wants to have his childhood back, but it's kind of tragic when you really look at it. And after you play through the game, it's my favorite game of all time, it's the best. I grew up with that game. And it's like right at the end, oh, let's rewind time, rewind everything, and forget that Link was ever a hero in the first place. So it is a very sad ending, in my opinion. And I don't know if you guys ever realized that, but that's how it is. So Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Amazing game, a heroic game, but a tragic ending indeed. All right, here we go. We're at the top 3 most tragic endings in video game history, in my opinion. If you're enjoying the video so far, leave a like, subscribe, and let me know down below what is the most tragic game that you've ever played. So with these top 3 games that I've listed, there's really no more controversy, in my opinion. The first 2, it's like, well, are those sad endings? I think they're good endings, whatever. These last 3 are brutal. And the first one I'm going to go with, number 3, Red Dead Redemption. The first one. So, man, this game blew me away because I had never experienced Rockstar Games doing a tragic ending like this. I didn't realize this game was going to end in tragedy. I was playing it in college, and it's a very long game. And you play as John Marston, one of my favorite protagonists in gaming, and he is just a normal dude, a badass, and he's surrounded by like crazy people. All the strangers and the, people that you meet and the NPCs that help you are just like goofy and weird, and he seems to always be like level-headed and morally like just, even though he's an outlaw. So the Pinkertons, or the police back in the 1800s, or early 1900s in this case, they capture John because he used to be an outlaw in Dutch's gang, which if you played Red Dead 2, you get to learn all about that, which is really cool. And what they do with John is they take his family away, his wife and his kid. So what you got to do is go hunt down your 3 former brothers from your gang. So you got Bill Williamson, Javier Escuela, and the leader, Dutch. They're still out there. And the whole game is you trying to go find them, find leads to their whereabouts, and kill them. And that in itself is kind of tragic because, you know, they used to be brothers. You saw that in Red Dead 2, which I thought was really great. And I loved Javier. Like, I couldn't believe he turned out to be, you know, on Dutch's side after the end of it. But what you do is you go around, it's a long game, you go to Mexico, you're in the West, and you're killing these guys, and you finally get to the end, and Dutch is there, and he's just lost his mind completely. What's done is done, and Dutch dies, and you're like, okay, this is great. You know, John Marston's gonna get his family back. I did it, finally, after so many hours. And then the final scene hits, which is the absolute shocking tragedy. For me, at least, I didn't realize this was coming, but, you know, you're back at the homestead with your family, life is good, and you head into the barn, and then you come out the barn doors, and it's iconic. You got all the Pinkertons lined up, aiming their guns at you, and the guy who told you, you know, if you kill your former brothers, we'll let you free. You know, they lie. They're standing there like, you know, any last words? It's time for John to die, and they just lied about the whole story. You know, oh, we'll let you go. And then it's iconic because the game mechanic, the Deadeye, right? You can slow down time and pull out your guns and just pick people off. It makes you super powerful. But there's like 100 Pinkertons in front of you. So one last time, they let you pull out the Deadeye and you just start trying to shoot him. But then the cutscene takes over. And they absolutely fill John with bullets, like hundreds of bullets. And he just gets freaking shot in front of his whole family at their house, at the barn. And that's the end of John Marston. So an absolute tragedy. I couldn't believe it. You know, I love John. And especially when you play through Red Dead 2, if you start there and then go to Red Dead 1. And by the end of it, it's just wild. So very sad. Rest in peace, John. You're the man. Red Dead Redemption as my number 3 saddest game of all time. All right, guys, we're down to the final 2 most tragic endings in video game history. So this one was tough for me. I could either put it at number 1 because it's so tragic, but, you know, I just put it at number 2 here because it might not be as well known to everyone at this point. No one really talks about this masterpiece of a game anymore. Let me explain why this is true art and one of the saddest endings that you'll ever play, and that is Shadow of the Colossus. It's an iconic game, and I think it transcends video gaming, and it really is like art. It should be in a museum, you know, along with the Mona Lisa and all those sculptures, the Sistine Chapel, even though you can't put that in a museum. That's just like in its own cathedral or whatever. But this game is insane. There's very little dialogue. There's very little NPCs. There's no side quests. You are on a mission. You're this young man who doesn't have a name. In Japan, they call him Wander, like the Wanderer. This is who you play as, and you have your companion horse with you named Agro, and that's it. So you get really attached to this horse. But in the beginning of the game, he's carrying this young lady who appears to be dead, and he's going to this sacred land that's forbidden, and no one should really be going there. But you are this young man, and you want to bring this young lady back to life, and that is like a heroic deed, right? Well, we'll see about that, because you get to this temple and you lay down this young lady, and the only voice that speaks to you in the game starts talking and saying you have to go kill 16 colossi out in the land, which is like this big open world. And everyone says, oh, it's empty. There's nothing to do in the open world. That's not the point of this game. This is not that kind of game. It is meant to feel isolated, and you're meant to feel lonely and small in this game. Because once you start meeting each giant, each colossus, it's just you and them, and you can see how absolutely enormous they are over you, and they tower over you. And once you start fighting them, you start to realize like they don't want to be doing this. They're not evil, you know? And you fight, and the music is epic in this game. It is so important because there's not a lot of dialogue. So it's you fighting in this epic battle right at the end when you finally kill a Colossus, and you have to kill 16 of them. Every time you kill one, the most tragic music starts playing, and this like dark spirit starts pouring out of them, like out of their heads and everywhere, and it pours right into you. And as you keep playing, you can notice, and this game was made in 2005, this is like PS2 brilliance here, but you can start to notice like a change in the face of the Wanderer, and you can see he's getting dark and gaunt, and his eyes are looking dark, and he's getting like black veins on his face. So every time you kill one of these giants, they play the saddest music, and they pour this darkness out of them into you. And by the end of it, once you've killed all 16 of them, you're filled up with it, and you do not look well. You look ill, and you look essentially evil. And it starts to make you think, like, why am I killing all these beasts? It doesn't feel right. The music makes you feel really bad at the end. There's no victory music, right? So it's like the opposite of that. So you're like, wait a second, this is not good, you know? And once you complete your mission and you've got all 16 dead, you return to the temple, and that voice that spoke to you was like, finally I will return, you know? And then it's like, oh shit. You realize that this voice was evil the whole time, and he was guiding you to kill these good and benevolent beasts that were guarding this land, and they were guarding each little spirit inside of them to make sure that this evil, called Dorman in the game, this evil spirit, like a demon, does not ever get resurrected. And by that time, you actually see other NPCs come in. It's the other villagers from where you originally came from, and they get there like, why did you do this? You know, like, how could you have done this? So the whole time, you were actually evil, doing evil things, thinking that you were gonna help this woman come back to life. And I think that twist is incredible in this game, and you know, the music the whole time is like tragic. And so you, the Wanderer, actually turn into this giant dark spirit because you've collected all 16 of its like essences, and you become the demon itself. And all these other villagers who showed up, you know, they like kill you and like banish you. So the main character you played as is done. He's dead. You did evil things and you have to die. But then, like in the final scene, you can see the lady, she does come back to life, and your horse that you thought was dead because he fell like right before the last Colossus that you faced, the horse was gone, and that was like one of the saddest parts of the game too. He comes back limping, and so the ending with the woman and the horse meeting back up together is actually, it's quite nice there, but it does not take away from the fact that the twist of what you did throughout the whole game is like very sad and tragic, and I love that game. So, you know, if everyone says it's boring, the game sucks, like, it is art and you're just missing the point. That's why Shadow of the Colossus is always going to be in my top 10 favorite games of all time. It's one that, you know, I would show someone who like doesn't understand what video games are. It's like, oh, they're all just like shooting. It's like, no, check this out, right? So Shadow of the Colossus, awesome game. And here we are. That brings me to the number one most tragic game I've played. And this might be recency bias for me because I played this game earlier this year and I bawled my eyes out. No joke. You know, all the other games, like, there might have been a tear here and there, but this one was rough because the main character is so pure, and it's just got another one of those iconic scenes at the end, like Red Dead Redemption. So which game am I talking about? Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII with Zack Fair. Yeah, it's a prequel to Final Fantasy VII, the original game, and it takes you through Zack Fair's life and how he joined up with this mega corporation / military group, Shinra, you know, and it really shows, like, here's major spoilers for all of Final Fantasy VII. It shows how he was the one to meet Sephiroth, and he was the one to go on missions with Sephiroth, not Cloud. And, you know, you've got Cloud. His name is Cloud because his mind is clouded. He forgets who he is. He thought all of his memories were his, but they were someone else's. Well, they were Zack's, and they named Zack Fair, like fair weather. Like, he's clear, he's pure, he's the man. And he's just funny and a little bit naive, but he always has a great attitude. You know, and he meets Aerith in Crisis Core as well, and they become actually boyfriend and girlfriend, you know, not Cloud and Aerith. It was Zack and Aerith. He's just such a cool dude. I love Zack a lot. You play through the game, you go on missions and missions, and you finally realize at the end, I wasn't super clear on why this happened. If you guys remember, let me know in the comments below. But you've done your final mission with Shinra, and you get to this cliff. You find Cloud, and Cloud's like really Mako sick. He's sick from the Mako energy, you know, in the reactors and stuff, and he can't even like see anything. He's pretty much like unconscious. And so you're carrying him, you're trying to help him, and you're trying to help Cloud survive. And, you know, Sephiroth's finally gone evil, but he's not the problem at the end of this game. You get to this iconic scene where you're out on this cliff edge, and you can see the city, Midgar, in the background, but you lay down Cloud, and you turn around, and all of Shinra's army is pointing their weapons at you. They've got helicopters after you. They're all facing you, about to kill you, and there's no way you can get away. And Zack has the most like iconic dialogue here, and the music that starts to play, his theme, is like heartbreaking. And he's like, what does he say? Boy, the price of freedom is steep. You know, and he pulls out the Buster Sword, which, yes, you know, that was his sword given to him by Angeal before him. Throughout the whole game, you go on these little side missions. This is important. You'll see why. Because every mission, every battle you get into, it says activating combat mode, and you just keep hearing that over and over. And there's this little like system in the game with like slot machines of like luck. It's called the DMV. And if you line up like 3 faces of NPCs in the game, you get like an extra boost in either attack or defense or whatever. So this like slot machine works in combat to your favor. And at the end of the game, you're kind of sick of hearing activating combat mode every single battle. But right after Zack's iconic speech, you know, boy, the price of freedom sure is steep, he pulls out the Buster Sword. The whole army's facing him, activating combat mode for the last time. And it's like, no, dude, this is insane. So you try to fight him off. You know, just like Red Dead, they give you an opportunity to fight for a few minutes or like a few seconds. And the DMV, the slot machine, rolls 3 of Aerith, and it like gets stuck on her face right there. Man, it is the saddest ending. It's so good because you try to fight him off, and then Shinra, you know, they get you. Zack goes down, they put a bunch of bullets in him, and then they leave. And they didn't even find Cloud because you hid him behind this like rock or something. Like, they didn't even touch Cloud. And as Zack's laying there, he's dying, and you know, there's rain pouring onto his face, and then you see like tears coming down his face as well, and then it like zooms in on his eye, and then when it zooms out of his eye, it's Aerith's eye. Like, they cut to Aerith, and she sees the rain coming down, and she knows it means like Zack died. And you know, then they like zoom into her eye, and then they zoom out and it's Zack's eye, and he's crying, and it's raining, right? And then Cloud's there, and he's like, how do I help you? And he's like, no, you're gonna be my living legacy. He gives him the Buster Sword, and then he dies. And that is just like an amazing way to end the game, an amazing way to like segue from the prequel of Final Fantasy VII right into 7. So Cloud's got the Buster Sword, and you know, his mind is still messed up though. He doesn't remember any of that in Final Fantasy VII Original. He forgets what happened there, but if you play Crisis Core, you'll know exactly how it goes. And you know, I would like to see if you could do it and maintain dry eyes by the end of it, because that game is just beautiful and tragic at the same time. My number one saddest game that I've ever played, Crisis Core. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. It's been tough to even talk about, but I love these games, and I hope you can see like what these video games mean to me. And for those of you out there who like don't respect video games, I don't know why you'd be watching this video anyway, but these are the games you got to check out to see like how heavy and emotional they can be, and hopefully you'll enjoy them as much as I did as well. Thanks again for watching, guys. Take care, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll try to be back with more videos consistently here, whether I'm on camera or not, because I love doing YouTube, and I shouldn't just quit because of a little bit of lack of confidence, you know. I'm gonna keep it going. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace.